Hey everybody, Matter here, and welcome to part 10 of my Steins Gate Zero Let's Play. In the last episode, we concluded one of the routes, what would be considered the bad end, where Dr. Leskinen essentially gets away with what he's doing. The war has started, Mayuri is missing, Suzuha is missing, the time travel machine is destroyed, Okabe is dealing with the guilt of letting this happen because he chose not to go back and change things. So hopefully, we're going to be starting a new route today, and hopefully it will go a bit better. Maybe we'll have a little bit more of a happier ending, or at least, it will probably be an ambiguous ending that's not completely happy until we get to, the true ending. So we're going to start off from, I believe it was December at the shrine, where Okabe has to make the decision whether or not to turn off his phone, and that is the point where things really are going to diverge. So I'm excited to start the new route. Without further ado, let's get into it and let's see what happens in this one. Alright, so here we are, back in December. This is the choice here. The big choice to make is whether to turn off the phone or not. And obviously the last time I chose to not turn the phone off. Now we are going to turn off the phone. This was getting bad. I couldn't even stand up. It'd been half a year and things were still like this. Even I was surprised. I resisted the impulse to try to throw up again. Just turn off the phone. And we are going to power off. Boom. The phone went silent. I slowly stood up. If Lukako saw me like this, he'd worry. I should get out of here. I was staggering a little, but I could walk. I felt very thirsty. I gulped down an entire bottle of mineral water and caught my breath. There was still a little time before my meeting. I wanted to get some air up here and recover a little. I looked down over the scenery below the overpass. The city was in the Christmas spirit. The atmosphere was charged with excitement. It was the exact opposite of me. I took more deep breaths. I still felt like I wanted to throw up. I was getting a headache, too. If I went to Dr. Leskinen like this, I'm sure I'd worry him. Oh, this is so funny playing this now, like when you play these routes with the knowledge where you know the truth, but the character doesn't. And you just want to scream, "Stay away from that man." And then I realized the two girls coming up the stairs were looking at me. I peered into the late afternoon darkness to try and make out their faces. One of them, the girl with a short haircut, waved. Okay, so this is pretty similar to the last time.
Oh, Mayuri no tomodachi no.
They were Mayuri's friends and fellow cosplayers. I think their cosplay names were Kaede and Fubuki. I didn't know their real names. Which was Kaede and which was Fubuki again?
大丈夫ですか?具合悪そうですけど。
ああ、大丈夫。
If I made them worry here and they talked to Mayuri, it would cause a big fuss. I didn't want her to worry about me when she didn't have to. I shouldn't have come back to Akihabara anyway. I'd run into people I knew just walking through town, right? It's just like this place where there's like millions of people and yet the same group just keeps running into each other. I should have gone towards Kondo when I left the shrine.
オカリンさんっていつもなんだか辛そうに見えます。
そうか。
そうだよ。ふぶきちゃん。そんなオカリンさんを見てるマユシーも辛そうで、私もオカリンさんとマユシーのこと見てると泣きそうになって。って私何言ってんだろう。
This Fubuki girl must really care about Mayuri. I felt a little better after hearing that.
オカリンさんの好きな人って誰ですか?
Okay, yeah, it's pretty similar. Very, very similar, the conversation here. This is where he had the freak out, right? About thinking about Kirisu, the girl I like. An image of Kirisu appeared in the corner of my eye again. The feeling in my hands when I took her life came back. No, calm down.
オカリンさん、ごめんなさい。失礼なこと聞いちゃって。私。
Oh, wait, whoa. This is happening sooner than I expected. The sky was red-black, dotted with columns of thick black smoke. There was so much rubble I couldn't find a place to stand. Screams, gunshots, and the stench. Everyone in this world knew what the smell was. It was the smell of burning. Houses, buildings, cars, motorcycles, trees, grass, and humans. It was the smell of all of them burning together. Something thin and black poked from between piles of rubble. It was a hand. The hand, unmoving, stretched up toward the sky. No, that wasn't the only one. Everywhere I looked, I saw hands, legs, and heads. Parts of what were once human beings were strewn across the ground. I heard a distant gunshot. A shout. Silence. Nothing changed. Just one more body lying on the ground. The world was ending. And at last, people understood. This wasn't the afterlife. This was the real world. Hell. Yes, that's what this was. This was hell. There we go. Okay, a stray sheep. Yep, there we go. Different. The world twisted and warped. I felt horribly dizzy. Sometimes my vision would blur for no reason, but this was nothing like that. It was like my mind itself was being wrung apart, like the world itself was changing. Deja vu. I knew this feeling. This was reading Steiner. This is happening so much earlier than before. At last, the color came back to my vision. All the shouts of the pedestrians and noise of the passing cars came flooding in at once.
Okarin-san? 大丈夫ですか? 汗、すごいですけど。気分でも悪いんですか?
いや。
Fubuki and Kaede, the two of them were still in front of me. They looked worried. Had I just gotten dizzy for a moment?
本当に大丈夫だよ。心配してくれてありがとう。
それじゃあ、私たち行きますね。今度のパーティー、楽しみにしてます。
They said their goodbyes and walked toward the station. I watched them go, only halfway paying attention. What was that? None of the passerbys noticed me standing there. They were all experiencing time sequentially, as one connected moment after another. But I knew what I just saw. That's right. I was the one person who understood. Well, not necessarily. He thinks he is, but as we know, there's many people who are going to experience this, including Fubuki. That feeling was reading Steiner, which meant that the worldline had changed. I shook my head and tried to get the idea out of my mind. It was impossible. The worldline could only change if someone had altered the past. I'd only ever seen worldline changes after I'd sent D-mails with the phone wave, named subject to change. But I destroyed the phone wave, so that could never happen again. I'd sacrificed Kirisu for it. But then, who did this, and how? Okay, let me just check the tips real quick here. D-mail, short for DeLorean mail, a text message that is capable of traveling to the past. D-mails are sent from a cellular phone to the phone wave, named subject to change. However, they can't be sent too close to the present. Also, they may only contain a little over 36 bytes of data. What if someone had made a device identical to the phone wave? Mayuri. I need to see if Mayuri's safe. I'll call her right now. If the worldline change meant something terrible had happened to Mayuri again, just imagining it made me shiver. That couldn't happen. It wouldn't. That's what I wanted to believe, but I couldn't help but remember all the times I'd seen her die in the Alpha worldline. For now, I needed to get in touch with her as soon as possible. Do I do that myself? Go here, call Mayuri. I picked her name off the contacts list on my phone and dialed. I could hear the call sound in my ear, but there was no sign of her picking up. 7 seconds, 8, 9. It's like, the one we just finished where Mayuri also wasn't picking up. Each second made the fear worse. I felt cold sweat drip down my back. 12 seconds, 13 seconds, 14 seconds. I kept calling and praying anyway. Eventually, after a minute of ringing, the electronic sound suddenly cut off.
てってるー、まゆしーです。
マユリマユリか本当にマユリなんだな。
おかりどうしたのそんなに慌てて。
The relaxed, easygoing voice I heard most definitely belonged to Mayuri.
心配したぞ。ずっと鳴らしているのに出なかったから。
ああ、ごめんね。電話カバンの中に入れてたから。
This is okay. Okabe actually has a reason to worry. This is me when I try to call my mom's the worst. Like if I try to call her for whatever reason, if I can't get a hold of her for a while, of course I start to assume the worst has happened. This is always my mom. She's like, "Oh, my phone was in my purse," or like, "Oh, I was away from my phone, so I didn't know." And she never checks her, like, if anyone's called her, because she never calls back. Like, sometimes she does, but I'm just like, God damn it. I can feel the stress of Okabe, just, like, not knowing if someone's okay, except he has a real reason to worry, whereas, like, mine is just my stupid brain being dumb. Not at all. Nothing had happened at all.
もしかして何か急な用事だった？
いや気にしなくていい。少し不安になっただけだ。
不安？
今どこだ？誰かと一緒か？
これからバイトだよ。
何時まで
8時過ぎぐらいまで。
Oh, is like Okabe gonna be all like mother hen, just like, I will watch over you, I will meet up with you, I will walk you home, I just need to make sure that you are in my sight.
そうか。わかった。
おかり、遊びに来てくれるの？
いや
Or
今日は
not.
用事があってな。無理なんだ。
バイトが終わったらラボにも顔を出すつもりだよ。
わかった。もし行けるようだったらそこで合流して一緒に帰ろう。
ほんと？今日は珍しいね。
じゃあバイト頑張れよ。
I hung up. Mayuri was safe, which meant that the worldline changed probably had nothing to do with her. Not that I could let my guard down. Or maybe that was just a daydream and there was no worldline change at all. It seemed awfully realistic for that to be the case, though. Just to be safe, I turned on my phone again. The icon was still there, in the same place it had been the last several times I'd used it. I felt a little hesitation, especially after what happened. Could I really contact her after that? But I decided it was important to see what was going on first, so I tapped the icon. Oh, that was crazy.
何？
As
言い忘れたことでもあった？
as it was calling her, I heard my phone notification go off in the other room. I'm like, oh no, Kirisu's on my phone. Kirisu's voice was the same as ever.
怒ってないのか？
怒る？どうして？
だってさっき話している途中で切ってしまっただろ。だから
それについてはさっき謝ってもらったから。私は一度許したことをいつまでもぐちぐち言う人間じゃない。
さっき謝った？
What? Oh.
かけ直してきたじゃない。
Whoa, what?
かけ直した？俺が？
ほんの7分43秒前のことを忘れちゃったの？
俺が
This is
謝ったのか？
interesting.
お前に？
大丈夫？
Kirisu was evidently telling the truth. She didn't look like she was lying, at least.
何かあったの？さっきとは別人みたいな顔してるけど。
So 7 minutes ago, would that have been while I was having like that whole worldline change? Did he somehow do that? That's strange.
いや、平気だ。
I didn't remember that. I remembered turning off the phone, but I didn't remember anything about calling her. The Amadeus Kirisu back after that. The old me would have insisted I was right and that she was mistaken. But now, I wasn't sure. After all the different past I'd experienced, and all the sadness and pain I'd gone through, even 6 months later, I was still exhausted. What had really happened, and what hadn't? What was right, and what was wrong? I wasn't sure anymore. I just didn't want to think about it anymore. The past, the future, the fate of the world. I wanted nothing to do with any of it.
ずいぶん具合が悪そう。誰か知り合いに連絡するなり、どこかで休むなりした方がいいんじゃない？岡部？
なあ、クリス。一つ聞いてもいいか？さっき電話した後、俺が何をしようとしていたかわかるか？
レスキネン教授と真帆先輩とこの後待ち合わせでしょ？私について報告する予定じゃない。
Evidently, my memories matched hers in that regard.
そうか。
真帆先輩にあんたのことをあらかじめ伝えておきましょうか？
本当に大丈夫だ。心配かけてすまない。
あんまり無理しないでよ。あんたと最後に話したのが私でしたなんて結果になるのはごめんだからね。
I chuckled bitterly and ended the conversation. I called Daru too, just in case, and evidently I really was on my way to see the professor and Maho. He also told me that almost all the events of the last few days matched my memory of them, which meant that even if the worldline had changed, nothing had changed nearby where I could have seen it. There was no problem, or at least there shouldn't have been a problem. It was possible the moment of dizziness was just the result of mental illness. Experiencing those same sensations brought up my past trauma and caused my memories to get confused. Maybe that was it. The phone wave didn't exist, so there was no way the past could have changed. That's right. That was all. I kept telling myself this as I went to see the professor. I met with the professor and Maho in a hotel room. Okay, now this will be interesting to see if the same events happen with that guy with the gun attacking us.
それじゃあ今のところエムデウスとのコミュニケーションはう
But
ま
now
く
that the
いってい
worldline
る
has
という
changed,
ことでいい
anything
んだ
can
ね、
happen.
リンタロウ。
ええ。会話に齟齬が出ることもありませんし。
ちなみに聞きたいんだが、クリスとの距離感はどうかな？
距離感というとどういうことでしょう？
話しているうちに親しくなってきているかどうかということだよ。
それは初めて会話した時に比べれば多少は。
多少？かなりの間違いじゃない？私だってクリスと話してるんだからそれくらいわかるわよ。あの子最初は8回もイルスを使われたって怒っていたほどなのに、今じゃすっかりフレンドリーになっているもの。それだけ距離が縮まったということでしょ。
そうですか。それは喜ばしい。
Leskinen seemed overjoyed by Maho's words.
私は期待しているんだよ。彼女が君に対して 友情を、もっと言えば恋愛感情を持ってくれないかとね。
恋愛感情？
そんな声を上げることもないだろ
でもその AI ですよ。
う。AI だからだよ。
What did he mean?
彼女にだって感情はあっただろ
ええ。だけどそれはあくまでもプログラム上のことで。
でもそれは人間の脳だって同じことじゃないか。
He was right. The brain ran on electrical signals, so you could say it had the same structure.
今は機械に感情があるかないかなんていう命題はもはや時代遅れだよ。機械にだって感情はある。
See, this is why I apologize to my electronics if I'm a little rough with them, or I say thank you. Sometimes when I ask for like like Alexis or whatever, is because the people who are polite to the AI and to technology will be the ones who survive in the upcoming robot war. So be nice to your electronics.
第一、エメデウスは私たち人間の脳を再現すべく作っているんだ。構造が同じでプロセスが同じなら、その結果生み出されるものも同じなはずだろう。ならば彼女だって恋をする可能性は十分にある。いや、ぜひしてもらいたいと思っている。
Amadeus falling in love. This conversation is pretty different from what I remember.
おっと、こんなこ
It's
と
nice that
を言っ
even
ては
like in
魔
similar
法に
situations,
恨ま
like
れ
the
てし
hotel
まうか
room,
な。
it's not just the same stuff.
教授までクリスみたいなことを言わないでください。
冗談だよ、冗談。魔法は怒ると怖いから気をつけた方がいい。
ええ、それはもう分かってます。
ちょっと聞こえてますよ。
おお、そういえば私はジュリーに連絡をしなければならないんだった。リンタロウ、少し失
Oh,
礼する
interesting.
よ。
And then Judy, that's it. See, we're getting these little hints here. Because I don't think he mentioned Judy Judy, what was her name? Judy Reyes? Is that her? The woman that was talking with Dr. Leskinen about Okabe? The professor quickly left the room. He ran away, didn't he?
まったく。クリスといい教授といい。どうして何でもかんでもすぐに色恋沙汰に結びつけたがるのかしら。
まったくだな。
Of course, that was always the type of girl she was.
あ、そうだ。岡部さん、ちょっと聞きたいんだけど、あの子がクリスが好きな言葉って何か知ってる？
I love this. Like now we're getting I like this because like from the last roots and now like little things are popping up like her asking about any words because she's trying to hack into Kirisu's laptop and Dr. Leskinen talking to Judy, who I'm pretty sure was the other the scientist that he met up with.
言葉？
数字でも何でもいいの。何かこうキーになりそうなものに
She's
心当たり
being
ないか
very
しら。
upfront about this.
クリスが設定したパスワードを
She's
破
just
ろうと
straight
で
up
も？
saying it.
よくわかったわね。
All right, well, she's being very forthcoming about it. I was right.
それってあいつの研究室の PC か何かの？
ううん。彼女の私物。家にあったノート PC よ。
This is very interesting. So, like, I think we didn't. It was after. Yeah, it was after the attack. After they got attacked, that they went to the cafe in Yanyan, and then that's where he met up with Daru, and Daru mentioned the laptop. And we didn't know that Maho was behind this until way into the root.
そんなものどうして君が？
形見分けでね。譲ってもらったの。クリスのお母さんに。それで中身を確かめたいからパスを解除する方法を探しているの。
And now I wonder if Daru.
あなたなら知ってるんじゃないかと思って。
I wonder if Daru, like, and this is weird too. Like, does she somehow like remember the time? Like, she's being very forthcoming. Where she was so before, she was so secretive about it with Okabe. Wouldn't tell him anything. until the very end. And now it's like we don't know each other very well at all, and yet she is very forthcoming about this. So I wonder if somehow like the time change or like the timeline change, she somehow remembers it too, and she's like, Okabe is somebody I can trust, so I'm just gonna come right out with it.
パスがかかってるということは見られると困るものなんじゃないのか？
それはそうだけど、でも彼女アマデウスのクリスをより本物に近づけるためにはその中のデータも解析した方がいいでしょ？もちろん
So she's
私
not
自身はなるべ
telling me
く
the
プライバ
reason
シーに
why
関わ
she
ること
wants
は
to
見ない
crack
ように
it.
するつもりよ。
I knew what she was trying to say. She might have had some kind of diary on her computer which described what she'd been doing during her time here. But
悪いけど心当たりはない。
何も？
ああ、それに知っていたとしてもやっぱり俺は教えないと思う。
人には知られたくないことがあるから？
特に PC の中身なんていうのは今やプライバシーの塊みたいなものだからな。
Daru talked about that all the time. He was always wondering if there was a way to automatically wipe a computer's hard drive if you died in an accident. Of course, what Daru didn't want anyone to see was probably very different than what was on Kirisu's computer. Beyond that, it was the same idea.
そう。
She seemed really interested in the contents of the hard drive, but she didn't say anything else.
それじゃあ俺はこれで。
Oh, I was a little worried about Mayuri too. Oh, let's take a look. Daru, hey, Ogarin, what is the best color for a school swimsuit? What the hell are you talking about? Who gives a crap? White, definitely. I'll say, what the hell are you talking about? Well, I'm playing this H game and it just popped up as a choice. I was wondering what color you would pick. What? Honestly, I would have rather asked Mayushi or Lukashi or Farastan. They'd call the cops on your ass. Yeah. So I had no choice but to ask you. What color? Don't get embarrassed, just tell me. Ask Suzaha. Not a chance. She'd slit my throat. I got up and went to leave. And then I saw a small ornament that was decorating the door.
そういえばもうすぐクリスマスか。
I remembered how excited Mayuri was.
ヒア城さんはクリスマスもこっちにいるのか？
ええ、こっちでまだやることもあるから。
誰かと過ごしたりは？
え？
ああ、いや、ほら海外のクリスマスっていうと友達みんなで楽しくパーティーでもするってイメージだろ？
残念だけどそういう予定はないわ。それにアメリカやヨーロッパじゃクリスマスにパーティーなんてやらないものよ。
そうなのか？
彼らにとってクリスマスは神聖な日でしょ。だから家族と一緒に過ごすのが普通よ。その分大晦日は大騒ぎするけれどね。
I thought I'd heard something about that on TV or somewhere.
まあこっちには家族もいないからどっちにしても一人ということに変わりはないんだけどね。あ、だからって寂しいと思ってるわけじゃないわよ。誤解しないでね。
Or so she said, but being all alone on Christmas in a bustling town was probably pretty lonely. Of course, she'd probably get mad if I told her that, so I didn't. Guess he's not going to invite her yet. Maybe another time? When I finished talking to the professor, I went to the lab. I mean, we still got 9 days until the Christmas party. I confirmed on the phone that Mayuri was just fine, but I wanted to see her for myself. I could see from the outside and the lights in the lab were on. I ran up the stairs to get away from the cold and opened the door.
Mayuri, いるか?
I felt a small impact on my chest when I opened the door.
悪い。
いえ、僕の方こそごめんなさい。
Evidently, he was just about to leave. Lukako looked up at me, apologetic. For some reason, he was blushing a little. Only Daru and Lukako were in the room. There was no sign of Mayuri or Suzaha.
よかった。もう少し早く帰っていたら岡部さんと入れ違いになっているところでした。
もしかして 俺を待っていたのか？
はい。と言っても別に大した用があったわけじゃないんです。差し入れを持ってきただけで。
おまんじゅうもらったよ。
Daru had already eaten about half the
い
box.
ただき物ですから。皆さんでどうぞ。
そうか。ありがとう。
つうか、ルカシ、時間大丈夫なん？
Lukako looked up at the clock and started to fidget.
実はこの後、お家にお客さんが来ることになってるんです。
客？ルカ子のか？
いえ、父のお客さんです。なぜか僕にも同席してほしいと言われまして。父は普段同じ趣味を持った人を呼んで長い時間話し込んだりするんです。難しい話ばかりで僕にはよく理解できないので、普段はお茶を出すぐらいしかしないんですけど、どうして同席してほしいと言われたのか。
難しい話って宗教とかそっち系の話か？
Lukako's family ran the Yanabayashi shrine, one of the oldest in Akihabara.
そういうわけではないみたいなんですけど、この前のお客さんとは有明がどうとか晴海の頃はどうとか、そういうお話をしてました。
晴海、有明。
Weren't those places?
さすがルカシのパパ、恐ろしい子。
岡部さんや橋田さんはわかるんですか？
I feel
ま
like
あ
that's got to be connected to
なん
all
と
this
な
in
く
some
は
way, right?
な。
The fact that Luca's gonna be there, this feels like this should be important.
でもその
Maybe
話は
we
ま
will
た
find
今
out
度
about
だ。
in this route, maybe the
客
next
が
one.
来るなら早く帰った方がいい。
It's like the game, each route they throw a little bit of breadcrumbs about something new pops up that at the time you kind of just write it off, but then, you know, if you play again, you're like, oh wait, hold on, I know what's going on here.
それじゃあ僕はこれでまた来ますね。
He bowed deeply and disappeared out the door. I watched him go, then sat down on the sofa.
前よりは
メイクインじゃねえ？今日は来てないよ。
Then I guess I'll have to wait a little. Or should I go get her?
そういえばオカリン、さっきの電話だけどさ、あれ、なんだったん？
He was probably talking about the phone call I'd placed to him before I went to see the professor.
あれは気にしないでくれ。多分俺の勘違いだ。
そうなん？だったらいいけどさ。
I definitely he can't say anything about the possible worldline change to Suzaha. Or Daru, because Daru talks to Suzaha about that. I remembered the strange sensation I'd experienced. I'd wondered if it was a worldline jump, but several hours had passed and nothing had changed. Actually, I wasn't even sure if I'd really experienced it anymore. Memories were like that. Especially for me.
それにしてもハルミとは、さすがはルカシのパパ、ベテラン戦士っすな。
戦士がどうしたって？
Suzaha got back before Mayuri did.
ルカ兄さんのお父さんって戦士なの？
How come he gets to be brother while I'm stuck being Uncle Okarin?
そうだお。それも戦士の中の戦士、歴戦のつわものと言っても過言じゃないのだぜ。
へえ、そうなんだ。でもルカ兄さんの家って確か神職だと聞いたけど。ああ、そうか。神職の人も昔は兵士だったって言うよね。
She'd convinced herself.
確かにルカ兄さんはすごかったし、納得だ。
Amazing? What was amazing? I decided to just pretend I'd never heard that. What was amazing? So, is she talking about like the future Luca? Maybe future Luca's a badass who can fight? What's this about? It still felt awkward looking at Suzaha. I'd avoided coming to the lab mostly to avoid seeing her.
オカリンおじさん、そんな顔しないでよ。
Evidently, she could read my thoughts just from the look on my face. She seemed upset.
私のことを避けてるのは 分かってるからさ。
お前が悪いわけじゃないんだけどな。
つうか鈴葉、今日もこんな時間まで何してたん？はっ、もしかしてどこかの男とデートとか？いけません。そんなどこの誰とも知らない男とのお付き合いなんてお父さんは許しませんよ。
違うよ、そんなんじゃない。
本当に？
I thought it was a joke, but evidently he was serious about it. His tone was far less joking than usual. It must be hard being a dad.
本当だって。
だったら父さんの目を見て言いなさい。
父さんがそれ言う？
Right? I was like, even if she was on a date, maybe she could teach you how to actually go on dates.
どういう意味なんそれ？
母さんというものがありながら、いっつもそこで変なゲームばかりやってるじゃないか。
それは2次元と3次元はあくまで別物ですし。
お前2次元も3次元も関係ないって前に言ってなかったか？
おかりん、そういうことここで言う？裏切るなんてひどいよ。
I'd never been on Daru's side when it came to his hobbies, though.
ご本。とにかくそういうことなら今日は何をしていたのか父さんに言いなさい。
何って？
やましいことがないなら言えるはずだよ。
Suzuha glanced at me, then sighed in resignation.
人を探していたんだ。
And we know that's Kagari.
とそれってやっぱ男？
He's like, no, it was a girl. He's like, what? I played some games like that.
違うって言ってるじゃないか。小さな女の子。今はもう私より年上になっちゃってるか。
That was a strange way to put it. I glanced over at Daru, who looked back at me.
実はさ、私が乗ってきたタイムマシンにはもう一人乗っていたんだ。
People are so much more forthcoming with information in this route.
なんだっ
I
て？
guess it makes sense, because, like, the viewer, you know, they'll know what's going on. Well, maybe, actually, I don't know. Maybe it also depends on... Now that I think about it, I was like, does it matter if I played the route that I did, or if I hadn't played the route that I did? This one, I feel like you learn the information much quicker, but does it somehow know that I've already played one route and know this information, so it changes it accordingly so that it's not like repeating information?
鈴葉、そんなん初耳なんだけど。
今まで話してなかったからね。
She was looking down at her feet, and I could see she regretted bringing it up.
その同乗者は何者だ？今どうしてるんだ？
どうしているかはわからない。
わからないって。
はぐれちゃったんだよね。1998年にここ秋葉原で。
1998. That would have been 12 years ago. Oh no, it's so much longer than that. I wish it was only 12 years ago. So it wasn't just Suzuha who came from the future. It took some time for the meaning of that to sink in.
でもなんでそんなことになったん？
私とその子は IBN5100 を探すためにはじめ1975年に飛んだ。理由はおじさんならわかるよね。
I nodded silently.
なんとか無事に IBN5100 を手に入れた私たちは今度は1998年に飛んだ。2000年問題を回避するミッションのためにね。
2000年問題？
That was one of the big events at the end of the last century, along with Nostradamus' prophecy. But in the end, after all the fuss made by the media and pundits, nothing really happened. Was that because John Titor had come from the future to fix it? If that was the case, then wow.
その1998年にトラブルが起きてその子とはぐれちゃったんだ。
それではぐれたままタイムマシンで跳躍したのか？
仕方なかったんだ。あの子は自分からタイムマシンを飛び出してしまったし、それに
She must have remembered something because she swallowed her words with a bitter expression.
もちろん 私だって探した。燃料の残量が許す限り、何度も細かいタイムトラベルを繰り返して、あの子の姿を探し回った。でも、
In the end, she'd never managed to find her.
大体の事情は分かったけどさ、どうして今までそんな大事なことを黙ってたん？
あの子を見失ったのは、私の落ち度だ。ちゃんと自分で責任を取りたかったんだ。
水臭いな。
Daru's words were soft.
僕たち親子だろ。困った時は頼ってくれてもいいのだぜ。
父さん。
Except to date her mom.
その子を探せばいいんだろ。だったら僕らも手伝う。な、オカリン。
なって、俺もか。
当たり前だろ。別に未来を変えてくれっつってるわけじゃないんだし、それくらいやってくれてもいいっしょ。
まあ。
To be honest, after refusing all her requests to save the world, I was feeling a little guilty. I'd like to help her if I could, but I wanted to know what she would do after she found her.
で、その子の名前と年齢は？ちなみに可愛い女の子だよね。男とか言ったら父さん許さないぞ。
女だよ。
オッケー。名前とスリーサイズもやろう。
3サイズなんて知らないよ。だって別れた時のあの子は10歳だったんだから。
幼女か。
じゃあ今は22歳になってるはずだな。
名前プリーズ。
名前はカガリ。シーナ・カガリって言うんだ。
シーナ？
Daru's like, God damn it. No, that makes it weird. The name was an unusual one. A girl who was part of Daru's group in the future who had the name Sheena.
スズハ、まさかその子って。
うん。彼女の母親の名前はシーナ・マユリ。カガリはマユ姉さんの子供なんだ。
Mayuri's daughter. Of course, it was possible Mayuri would choose to have a child in the future. But the fact that I'd never even thought about it made the shock that much worse. She had a daughter. She must have had a partner. And that partner couldn't be me. Oh, because I died in 2025. Is that like a little bit of like, I want it to be me, even though he loves Kirisu? He loves Mayuri in a different way, but it almost seems like he's upset about the fact that he didn't end up with her. Wait a second. If she was 10 in 2036, then she would have been born in 2026. Oh my gosh. I'd have to learn more, but if I died in 2025, wasn't it possible, maybe, barely, that it could be me? That just couldn't be. Well, we know that that's not the truth, right? Because she was a war orphan. They didn't say specifically, like, from who, but they said enough that it's not like they said that she adopted Kagari. Just like Suzuha had appeared before Daru, she was going to appear before me? Who was the dad? I couldn't ask.
あれ？ちょい待ち。シーナってことは、名字はそのままってことだよね。
There's that too, unless they, Mayuri's like, I'm a non-traditional woman. She's gonna go by my name.
カガリは繊細孤児だよ。身寄りがなかった彼女をマユ姉さんが引き取って育てたんだ。
ああ、なんかそれ、マユシらしいかも。
I realized I was relieved in more ways than one, and I hated myself a little for it. Even if she did marry someone else in the future, as long as that made her happy, it was for the best.
私はマユ姉さんからカガリを頼むって言われたんだ。だからこんなことになっちゃいけなかった。あの子はいつだってマユ姉さんにべったりだったし、この時代には知り合いなんているはずもないから、きっとずっと心細い思いをしてるはずなんだ。
その子はどうしてはぐれてしまったんだ？さっきトラブルと言ったが。
If she'd come to a new era in the time machine at 10 years old, Suzuha would have been the only person she could rely on. Yeah, it'd be kind of awkward for Suzuha to be like, so she overpowered me and pulled a gun on me, actually. There was no way she'd leave Suzuha and run off on her own.
私にもわからない。ただ、過去に飛んでからのかがりは精神的にかなり不安定だった。
That made sense, come to think of it. A young girl just 10 years old was suddenly taken to a world where she knew no one. Of course she'd be scared.
その子の写真か何かはある？
あ、うん。
She showed me a tattered picture with 2 girls in it. One was an adult woman. I couldn't see her face, but maybe it was Mayuri 20 years from now. Hiding behind her was another girl. Was that Kagari Shina?
この子が22歳に成長してるわけか。いまいち想像がつかないな。
That is, if she was still alive. Even if Japan was a safe, peaceful country, it'd be hard for a young girl to get by on her own. If she was lucky, someone might take her in and give her to an orphanage, but if she wasn't, Suzuha was probably well aware of that possibility, so I didn't bring it up.
なおかりん、協力してくれよ。
真由里の養女なんだろう。だったら見つけてやりたいさ。でも鈴葉はいいのか？
So maybe this one is going to be more Kagari focused, because the episode was called, or at least this chapter is called Stray Sheep. I'm assuming that like the stray sheep is Kagari. I felt sure Suzuha was disgusted with me. I had a chance to save the world and I'd given up. Would she want help from a person like that?
おじさんさえ良ければ、人手は大いに越したことはないと思うから。
そうか。だったら手を貸すよ。
Of course, I didn't think this would make up for that.
ありがとう。マユシーの幼女がどうしたの？
Oh, jeez. Well, she walked right into that, huh? Everyone turned around at the sudden voice.
てってるー。おかり、本当に待っててくれたんだね。
Mayuri.
どうしたの？
The moment I saw her, I finally relaxed.
よかった。真由里。
I took her small hand in mine and felt the warmth. She was alive.
おかりん？
I like how Mayuri just kind of glossed over the fact, like, who's talking about my daughter? What about a daughter?
すまない。
別に嫌じゃないから大丈夫。マユ姉さん、いつからいたの？今来たばっかりだよ。
I was careless. I was so focused on what Suzuha was saying, I didn't see Mayuri come into the room. I mean, Suzuha even got, like, surprised.
マユシーの幼女がなんとかって聞こえたけど、何の話をしてたのかな？
それは、その...
Crap. Mayuri knew that Suzuha was from the future, but telling her about her future daughter would be going too far. I needed to change the subject.
真由里はまだまだ幼い。
Oh,
つま
boy.
り幼女だと
Oh,
言っていたんだ
Rintaro.
よ。
Nice save, buddy.
あ、そうそう。マユシは幼女かわいい。
童顔だってよく言われるんだ。
She's
マ
so
キさんみたいに大人っ
trusting
ぽくなりたいんだ
that
け
she
ど
just goes
ね。
along with it.
食べる量だけは立派に大人かもしれないな。
えへへ。
That wasn't a compliment, Mayuri. That was enough to distract her, evidently.
そうだ。食べ物といえば、オカリンはクリスマスに何か食べたいものある？
クリスマス？パーティーのことか？別に何でもいいぞ。食べられるものならな。
クリスマスパーティーか。すずさんは初めて？私たちの時代はパーティーなんてやってる余裕なかったからね。でも一度だけ父さんがどこからか美味しいチキンを調達してきてくれたことがあったっけ。それをマヨネーさんが調理するって言って父さんが止めて。
Suzuha was looking at Mayuri as if she was remembering the past, or future as this case might be.
いつもよりほんの少しだけごちそうってだけだったけど、それでも嬉しかったな。
In the future, when World War III was going on, there probably wasn't much time for celebration. But even then, Mayuri was still Mayuri, trying her best to make everyone happy.
ダルくんは何か欲しいものある？
僕は可愛い女の子がサンタコスしてくれればそれだけでお腹いっぱいだお。
料理はどれくらいいるかな。ユキさんと一緒に用意する予定なんだけどね。そうだ、ルカ君やフェリスちゃんにも手伝ってもらおうかな。
Mayuri's head was full of thoughts about the Christmas party, it seemed.
オカリンは誰かパーティーに呼びたい人いる？
俺？俺は別に。
I almost said no, but then I remembered someone. Maho Hyajo. She said Christmas is something that you always spend with your family, but...
オカリン？
いや、特には。
Oh, damn. How is she going to spend her Christmas? This'll be interesting if she doesn't end up going to the Christmas party. It was after I walked Mayuri home. The second I was alone, I started thinking about this afternoon. If that really was a worldline change, then what was the cause? The most likely possibility was someone had succeeded in developing something like the phone wave. We were able to make one. There was no reason someone else couldn't. Another possibility was that... No, there was no use in thinking about it. I was just mistaken. And even if the worldline did change, we weren't the cause. We didn't have anything to do with it anymore. Whenever I was alone, I always ended up thinking about things that wouldn't do me any good. I took the phone out of my pocket and tapped the icon.
Hello.
Kirisu's expression was as self-satisfied as ever.
こんな時間にどうかした？
いや、なんとなく話がしたくなって。迷惑だったか？
別に迷惑ってことはないわ。あんたと話すことは私のためにもなるんだし。
She was an AI after all. She wouldn't be bothered no matter the hour.
先輩とは会ってきたのよね。
ああ。
何の話をしたの？
何って、お前とのやりとりについて報告をしただけだが。
それだけ？どこかへ誘ったりは？
まだそんなこと言ってるのか？ヒアジョーさんに言ってみろ。また怒られるぞ。
だってようやく先輩にも運が向いてきたかもしれないんだもの。せっかくのチャンスを掴んでもらいたいでしょ。
Kirisu seemed insistent on getting me and Maho together. Sheesh, doesn't she have other things to think about? Things to think about. Would she have anything to say about that other matter?
なあ、ちょっと相談なんだが、消息不明になった人を探すにはどうすればいい？
ずいぶんと唐突ね。
身近でそんな話があったんだよ。でも自分たちじゃどうすればいいのかわからなくてな。
詳しく教えて。
She leaned forward, suddenly interested. She really was a curious girl.
それが
言えないことなの？
俺だけの問題じゃないからな。
それで相談に乗ってくれって言われても無理がある。
だよな。一般論でいいんだ。意見を聞かせてくれるだけで。
そうね。一番いいのは警察に行くことね。
That was the obvious and correct answer.
あとは更新所に頼むとか、過去の新聞記事を当たるとか。あ、でもそういうことはもうやってるか。
Private investigator, a company that investigates corporations or individuals, most commonly used to do background checks on prospective marriage partners or clients to see if or to see if spouse is cheating.
どうかな。
どうかなって、まさかそんなこともやらずに探そうとしてるの？
俺も今日聞かされたばかりなんだ。後で確認してみる。
But Kagari was from the future, and Suzuha didn't have any personal documents in this era either, which meant it was unlikely she'd gone to anybody in the government.
アメリカなんかではダウジング屋通して人探しをやるなんて人もいるよな。
まさかあんな何の科学的根拠もないものを信じるとでも？
いや、言ってみただけだ。
よかった。もしそうだとでも言ったら二度と話なんかしないところだったわ。
She really was just like Kirisu.
ありがとう。参考になったよ。
見つかることを祈ってるわ。
ああ、それと。
何？
Wait, she didn't say anything. Did he say anything about being a girl? Did she assume, or did she somehow did she hear this? Is it a thing where Amadeus is always listening even when he's not talking to her?
いや。
Actually, let me go through the backlog here, because they do say that AI they can lie. Yeah, he never said anything about it being a girl. I wonder if that's just a little, I don't know, a little slip on Kirisu's part, if that's just maybe a writing thing where they just overlooked that. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But you never know with games like this, right? A lot of the times it feels like it's intentional, like it gives you little hints.
本当に何でもないんだ。それじゃあ、今日はこれで。
Why was I just about to say that? I was just about to tell her about Mayuri's Christmas party to see if she wanted to go. Kirisu was just an AI. She only existed inside of a computer. I guess I was just starting to see her as real.
どう？父さん。何か手がかりはあった？
いや、残念ながらこっちは何にも。
そう。
The search for Mayuri's future daughter, Kagari Shina, was taking longer than expected.
一つ聞くが、警察には行ったのか？
うん。一応言ったんだけどね。でも、捜索願いなんかは出してない。
I was right. In order to submit a missing persons report, you needed to have ID to prove who you were. That's why Suzuha hadn't done it. And also, I later learned the only people who could submit a search request were people like family and significant others who were close to the missing person.
僕の方でも昨日軽く警察のデータベースにハッキングをかけてみたんだけど、それっぽい情報は出てこんかったよ。
だろうな。
つうことは、オカリンも見てみたん？
ダルのように内部情報を見たわけじゃないがな。
There was a database of missing persons on the police homepage, but it didn't go back very far, and it didn't have a lot of information. All it had was age, sex, clothes, and sometimes possessions they were carrying. Since we knew nothing about Kagari Shina, we had basically nothing to go on.
でもさ、一見平和に思えるこの世界でも、身元不明者や行方不明者ってたくさんいるんだね。
I thought the same thing. Each year, over 100 unidentified bodies were found in Tokyo alone. If you expanded that to cover all of Japan, then went back 12 years, you'd have a pretty big number. And the number of missing persons was far greater. Each year, almost 100,000 people went missing. And 1 out of every 5 was in their teens. Of course, most of them just ran away from home, and 70% were found within a week after a report was filed. But if 70% of them were found in the first week, that meant that 30% of them weren't. In fact, 5% of them were never found at all, and no one ever knew if they were alive or dead. Perhaps Kagari Shina was caught up in an accident or killed, or perhaps... I sat up, then got off the sofa.
オカリン、どっか行
Does
く
he
ん？
think like maybe the chasers or the rounders are after them? So it's Moeka. I said like forever ago. I was like, what was her name? I realized, I was like, Moeka just showed up at the very beginning, talked to, kind of whispered to Maho and Dr. Leskinen. I don't know if she knows about all of... I assume she can't know about anything about the time machine in this timeline, at least when it comes to Okabe, because he never made it. But, I don't know, a little suspicious that Moeka... It could just be a red herring for people who've played the first game to see her and assume like something's gonna happen and then it's nothing. But the fact that she showed up at the beginning, talked to Maho and Dr. Leskinen, and then later all that stuff happens. I don't know, maybe I'm not gonna count her out completely as like not having anything to do at all with this.
もうちょっと調べてみようと思ってな。
School would be on break soon anyway, and it wasn't like I had anything to do. And while I hadn't been very interested at first, at some point I had become really interested in the whereabouts of Kagari Shina. And more than anything...
ありがとう、オカリンおじさん。
別にこれくらい大したことじゃない。
それでもありがとう。
As long as I was looking for Kagari, Suzuha probably wasn't going to bother me about the future. Having her bring up the same thing every time we met was hard for me. If I could get her focused on something else, that would make things easier. Or so I thought, but... Finding clues wasn't easy. Just in case, I'd gone to the National Diet Library and looked at articles on missing persons and crimes in 1998, the year she had gotten separated from Suzuha, but I had no luck. Oh, hold on, let me go to the tips here. National Diet Library, Japan's only national library. It consists of the main building in Tokyo, the Kansai branch in Kyoto, and several other branches throughout the country. The main building on 1st Avenue in Nagata, the Chiyoda Ward, is often called the Diet Library. All works published in Japan are kept here, and while normal citizens are allowed to view them, they do not allow books to be checked out. Suzuha said she had been looking for Kagari every few years on her way to our time, so I knew it wouldn't be easy. But I couldn't help but feel a little tired and disappointed.
Oh.
Nani?
Did he, like, not even realize he was calling her? Is he just doing it unconsciously now?
いや。
She must be so confused. I called Kirisu without even realizing it somehow. So that last time when apparently he talked to her and he didn't remember, did he like unconsciously call her?
そう見えるか。
声のトーンがいつもより低い。結膜に多少の充血も見られる。もしかして昨日言ってた件を調べてたの？
まあな。
I told Kirisu what I had heard from Suzuha and Daru and what I'd found at the National Diet Library.
バカね。そんなことなら私に言ってくれれば簡単にことは済んだのに。
どういうことだ？
私ならネットワークに接続してオンライン上の情報をリサーチすることができるでしょ？
あ、そうか。
I'd forgotten. She was an AI that existed inside a computer, so something like that would be easy for her.
なんなら少しやってみましょうか？
すぐにできるのか？
それほど時間はかからない。
それじゃあ頼む。
わかった。少しだけ待ってて。
And I was gonna say, like, definitely there's there's things about AI that scare me a little bit, but this is quite convenient. It's like, I know we have the internet in our hands, we can look stuff up, but to have someone you just like tell them, look up this thing for me, and they just do it for you, it's pretty convenient. Kirisu fell silent on the screen and didn't move for a moment. Maybe 30 seconds later.
もう結果が出たのか？
ネットワーク上で検索してみたけど、1998年以降、椎名かがりという名の女性が何らかの事件や事故に巻き込まれたという情報は得られなかった。同姓同名の人物は3名ほど検出。ただ、年齢を考慮すると、その人物があんたの探している人である可能性は
It's
限
assuming
りな
that
く低
Kagari
い
is。going by her name. She could be going by another's, and if she doesn't have ID, like if she's trying to stay under the radar.
ご要望な
being
ら
like impossible
そ
to
の
find
人
her.
物のデータを後でメールで送るけど。
いや、いい。
When I stopped to think about it, even Suzuha would have been able to do a search for her name on the internet. And what Kirisu was saying was almost certainly right. The Kirisu Makise I'd known was always right.
それじゃあ私にできることは以上かな。あとはあんたたちにしかできないやり方で探すしかないわね。
俺たちにしかできないやり方？
その人物がいなくなった場所の近辺で地道に情報を集めるの。究極的にアナログな方法だけどね。
やっぱりそうなるか。
Suzuha had been doing that forever, so I couldn't imagine I would find anything new. But if that was my only option, then that was what I had to do.
にゃにゃ。キャー。
And
じゃな
of
かった。
course,
おかわりに。
of course, someone just happens to see us out. I spun around when I heard a voice behind me.
やっぱりおかりんだにゃ。こんなところで何してるんだにゃ。
フェイリス、それに。
こんにちは、岡部さん。
なんだ、珍しい組み合わせだな。
ついさっきそこで会ったのにゃ。
Of
そ
course
したら
they did.
ルカニャンが
Like
荷
I
物
said, the
いっぱい
same
持って
six
たから
people just
そ
run
こ
into
まで
each
手伝
other
ってあげるこ
in
とにしたの
Tokyo.
にゃ。
I took a closer look and saw Lukako was holding bags in both hands. If you added in what Ferris was carrying, it was... He was trying to carry this all alone? Lukako?
ねえちょっと。
今何か聞こえませんでしたか？
いや、これは別に何でも。
I quickly hid the smartphone behind my back.
ちょっと聞いてるの？ね
また聞こえたにゃ。もしかしてさっきオカリンが話していたのはそれかに
いや、これ
They're
は
like, is that someone from those, like, speed dating or what was it? The, whatever those things that he goes to are. The singles stuff. It shouldn't matter if they found out. But I still felt guilty, so I closed the Amadeus app.
ゃ。電話中だったのにゃ。
ああ、ちょっと知り合いに相談事をな。
相談ですか？そういうことだったんだにゃ。後ろから見たらオカリンが一人でブツブツつぶやいているように見えたからちょっと心配したにゃ。
Did I look like she needed to worry about me? But, well, if she saw me talking to my smartphone in a place like this, I guess I could understand.
でも水臭いにゃ。何か困ったことがあるならフェイリスたちにも話してくれればいいのにゃ。そうです。僕じゃお役に立てないかもしれないですけど、でもお話くらいなら。
ありがとう。でも、大したことじゃ。
No, wait a second. Both Ferris and Lukako had lived in Akihabara since they were born, and both of their families held important positions here. Maybe asking them wouldn't be such a bad idea after all.
実は今、人を探してるんだが。
人ですか？
I told them I was looking for a girl who'd gone missing 12 years ago in Akihabara. Of course, I didn't tell them that she was from the future or she was Mayuri's daughter.
その子がどうして行
I
方
mean,
を
if
く
you're
ら
gonna
ませ
have to
たの
give the
か
full name,
激しく
they're
疑
gonna be
問
like,
だよ。
Sheena.
すまないが、そのあたりの事情は話せないんだ。
にゃ
そういう話に心当たりはないかだけでも聞いてもらえれば助かるんだが。
わかったにゃ。とりあえずフェイリスの方は黒木に聞いてみるにゃ。
Kuroki was her family butler. I'd met him several times. In the same way that Ferris naturally looked like a maid, Kuroki just naturally looked like a butler. Come to think of it, it was rather strange for a maid to have a butler for a servant.
あとメイクインニャンニャンのご主人様たちにもそれとなく聞いてみるにゃ。僕の方もお父さんとそれから氏子の方たちにも聞いてみます。
悪いな。そうしてくれると助かる。
Both Kuroki and Lukako's dad knew a lot of people, and they had a far better chance of finding someone than we did. I hoped they could at least find some small clue.
それはそうと、ルカ子。その山ほどの荷物はどうしたんだ？
これは昨日 お父さんのお客さんが来るっていうお話はしましたよね。実はそのお客さんの一人がしばらくうちに滞在することになって。
それで必要なものを買い揃えていたそうにゃ。
If they were a guest of Lukako's father, they must be fairly old. And from what I'd heard yesterday, they probably had some unique hobbies. This has to be connected in some way to all of this stuff that's going on.
いえ、僕もちょっと楽しいですし。
Fun? Lukako shared the same blood as his dad, so perhaps he had some latent interest in those hobbies.
あんまりのめり込みすぎないようにするんだぞ。
And I remember back in the original where he was trying to teach Lukako, what was it? It was like the way of the warrior or something like that. Man, he was so different in the first game when he was Hoi and Kiyoma. It's like they're just two completely different people. I gave him that warning, then went to leave. Well, I tried to leave, but...
よいしょ。
ルカニャン、大丈夫かにゃ。フラフラしてるにゃ。
大丈夫です。僕だってこれくらい。
Alright, so maybe we'll get to meet this guest.
お茶でも飲んでいってください。
いや、遠慮しておくよ。お客さんだっているんだろ。
そうですけど。
I couldn't bear to see him struggle like that, so I'd carried his bags to the shrine with him. Ferris had gone back to her cafe.
それにしても、この荷物、いくらなんでも一人で運ぶには無理があるだろ
う。僕だって最近は少し力がついてきたんですよ。今日も岡部さんに言われた素振りだって。
Yes. Sword exercises. That was the training I'd given him when he told me he felt too much like a girl.
精神残魔流。
Yes. I love the callbacks. It's been so long since I played it, but I remember some stuff at least. A style of swordsmanship taught by Kiyoma Hyoen to Luka Ushibihara. Or Urushi... Oh my gosh, why did I have such a hard time with his name? Urushibihara? Luka. Just Luka. The descendants of the ancient protectors of Akihabara. It also functions to strengthen the mind and quell the evil flames that lurk within Urushihabara. Only the cursed blade Samadare can bring out its true power. One of its secret techniques is the Type 33 Cherry Blossom Rage. At least that's what Okabe had said when he made it up. It was so stupid, I couldn't even laugh. Thinking back, I was amazed he put up with that nonsense.
Luka, 帰ったのかい?
I could hear his dad's voice from their home behind the shrine office.
はい、今行きます。
それじゃあ、俺はこれで。
はい、ありがとうございました、岡部さん。
Lukako bowed deeply as I left Yanabayashi Shrine. On my way home, I thought about what the two of them had said.
でも水臭いにゃ。何か困ったことがあるならフェイリスたちにも話してくれればいいのにゃ。
そうです。僕じゃお役に立てないかもしれないですけど、でもお話くらいなら。
I didn't realize until after they'd spoken. I had gone to Kirisu before I'd gone to anyone else. I'd brought up the app and started talking with her before I even realized it. So this one is definitely still going to be him. Maybe even more so than the previous routes where he's relying on Kirisu too much. He's getting too attached. She wasn't the real Kirisu, but that voice, the way she acted, all of it reminded me of Kirisu. All of it brought back the emotions I tried to hide. Yeah, it's pretty sad. Like, he's got such good, caring friends, but he's kind of shutting them out. Like, he doesn't seem to reach out to people, really. They have to reach out to him. And he's just getting deeper and deeper with this AI. Oh, and speaking of, there was an incoming call on my phone. It was from Kirisu. She was probably there to complain about me hanging up on her. That would be just like Kirisu. But I didn't answer the phone. I didn't answer any of the other calls that came that day either. Of America, California.
まったく、なんで私がこんなリポートしなきゃいけないのよ。
A reporter, Jessica Edmond, had rushed to the scene at her director's orders, and she was pissed off about it. She dreamed of Hollywood and even been in a movie once, so how did she end up reporting on this crap?
何でもいいから仕事をよこせと言ったのはお前だろう。
確かに言ったけど、だからってこんな事件。
落ちぶれた生意気な女優崩れを使ってやろうってんだ。感謝されたって文句言われる筋合いなんざない。
なんですって？
それともここでも仕事をほっ
I
ぽり
just
出
love
し
the
て
idea
逃げ
of
出
like
す
a
か。
Hollywood
何
actress
もかも
just
中
speaking
途半端
Japanese
で
in America.
そんなことだと
I
ガ
know
キの
why they
親
do
権
it
も
all
取ら
these
れちまうぞ。
She hated herself for not being able to say anything. Why are we getting into the drama of some random reporter? Obviously, it's going to be important. I wonder if it's probably about the fire at Kirisu's place. Her stupid pride got in the way. She dreamed of being a Hollywood actress, but all she'd gotten was a small part in a B movie. It had never gone anywhere after that. Then she had a kid and came back home. Still, she loved her kid. She wanted to make sure they were taken care of, no matter what she had to do.
それで、現場は？
その茂みの奥だ。
She went into the bushes, and there she saw it. Several bodies. Oh, shit. Okay, never mind. Several bodies, all brutally mutilated. Then again, if it was the fire, this would have to be a flashback. Oh, shit. Like monkeys.
このように
What?
国内において行方不明になっている研究者は今年に入ってから5名。そのうちの3名についてはアーティフィシャルインテリジェンスの研究を行っていたとされており、その背後には人工知能技術の発展に反対する原理的宗教主義者たちによる活動も影響しているのではないかとみて、当局ではさらに捜査を続けている模様です。
Okay, like that guy who shot at us in the parking garage.
続きましては現場からのリポートです。ジェシカ？
こちら現場のジェシカ・エドモンドです。今朝早くこちらの現場で発見された遺体に関して当初人間のものと思われておりましたが、その後の警察の調べによりますと、それがチンパンジーやオランウータンといった複数の猿の死体であることが分かりました。
Isn't like, what's the thing? It's like Neuralink. Isn't like Elon Musk? He's trying to do something where he's like implanting some sort of AI thing or something into monkeys, and like a bunch of them died. Is this something similar?
ただし、これらの遺体について一部脳および頭部が欠損しているものもあるとのことで、警察では猟奇的事件として地域住民への警戒を訴えており、
Or they could just be like, failed science experiments and they were just dumped unceremoniously, although you think they'd do a better job at hiding it. Obviously, someone is like checking the brain, so maybe it's that department that Dr. Leskinen's working at.
なあ岡部、お前この後授業は？
いや、今日はもう終わりだよ。
そっか。じゃどっかで飯でも食ってく？
どうせまたカレーだろ。キッチン倒壊か。
Kitchen Tokai, a long-established Western-style restaurant in Jinbocho. It offers delicious food at a reasonable price, so at lunchtime it's filled with salarymen and students. The curry is especially popular.
昨日ちょい臨時収入あったから、今日は豪勢にモンディーかな。
Okay, and then Mondi, a curry restaurant in Jinbocho. It's famous for its full-bodied European-style curry, but it's a little outside the price range of a college student's. Comes with endless fries.
俺はやめておくよ。今月ちょっとピンチだし。
そっか。じゃまた今度な。
あ。
I was talking with my friends after class. I'd really started to get used to this. Before the summer, I'd felt really out of place at school, but now it didn't seem so bad. Back then, I thought I was special, but now I knew better. As long as you make the effort to fit in, you can find a place to belong. People can change. Maybe once he dropped the Hoyen Kiyoma act, it's like he realized that he could probably socialize with people better. No, they change whether they want to or not. It was too late now, but I'd learned something about myself. It really was too late.
さてと、それじゃあ帰って。ん？
And Dr. Leskinen, as I was heading for the exit, I realized that I recognized one of the people passing through my field of vision. That was...
レスキネン教授?
My college went out of its way to attract exchange students, so it wasn't unusual to see foreigners. But still...
いない。
I hurried after him, but the person I just saw was already gone. Was I just mistaken? Come to think of it, the professor being here wouldn't be strange. He might have come to meet with my advisor, Izaki. Izaki had wanted to get to know him.
今度教授に会ったら聞いてみよ
I glanced in the direction he'd gone and then left the school for Akihabara. When I came out of the turnstile, the radio building was right in front of me, like always. The time machine that Suzuha had used to come here was probably still on the roof. Even if people didn't go up there often, it was still amazing that no one had found it after so long. Of course, that was all thanks to Ferris. She'd rented out the roof of the building and sealed it off. Of course, I hadn't come here to look at the time machine. I'd gotten messages from Lukako and Ferris after I'd left the lab last night. Both of them had asked, and neither of them were able to get any useful information for me. It made sense when I thought about it. If there was a missing persons report, somebody might remember the police doing something, but there wasn't. But Ferris had said something interesting.
でも、おさげの幽霊が現れるって話を聞いたにゃ。
う。おさげの幽霊?
そうにゃ。なんでもその幽霊は何年間に一度現れて小さな女の子を見なかったかと探し回っているそうなのにゃ。
That's definitely Suzuha, right? The twin tails.
何年経ってもその姿が変わらないから最近になっておさげの幽霊だって言われてるにゃ。
That was definitely Suzuha. What would she do if she knew people thought she was a ghost? I held back a laugh as I tried to imagine it, and then headed for the radio building. My goal, of course, was to find information on Kagari. This was where she'd vanished, which meant this is where I was most likely to find clues. I went around to each store inside the radio building and asked, but didn't learn anything. Of course, Suzuha would have done the same thing, so I didn't expect much. But that didn't mean I could just stop. The parts shop, the commercial facilities, even the back alleys. Even after all that, I went around Akihabara asking people about Kagari. But I didn't learn anything useful. Some people told me the same story about the ghost in Twin Tails, but no one knew anything about Kagari. If a little girl was kidnapped or got into an accident, somebody might witness that. But going missing was a different thing. If Kagari Shina vanished of her own free will, all anyone would see was a 10-year-old girl walking down the street. Nobody would remember that 10 years later. I tried to think again if there was a better way. If the police and government weren't of any use, that left someone connected to the Underworld.
裏世界ね。
As soon as I said it aloud, I drove the idea from my mind. How stupid. That's something the old me would have thought of. I'd given that stuff up.
そういえば。
I'd run all over Akihabara looking for something once before. I wasn't looking for a person, but a thing, the IBN 5100. Yeah. 6 months ago in the Alpha Worldline, I had gone looking for the same thing that Suzuha had searched for in the past. Back then, that's right, Kirisu was with me. When Kirisu and I had learned that there was an IBN 5100 in Lukako's storeroom, we worked together to carry the heavy thing.
あんたね、前に進まないでよ。私が後ろ歩きしなくちゃいけないでしょ。横に動きなさい。
Thinking back, all she had ever done was complain. She was strong-willed and bratty and hated to lose, but she was still so lonely. Once again, I had taken my phone out of my pocket without realizing it. Amadeus. Since I hadn't picked up any of her calls yesterday, she hadn't called at all today. I stared at the Amadeus icon for a moment. Yeah, I wasn't sure what to do there, like with the thing where I could have chosen to pick up or not. Following my spoiler-free walkthrough, it doesn't say I have to do anything until January, so maybe it just gives like extra little content. And then I put my phone back in my pocket. When I got back to the lab, I saw Daru was completely exhausted. There was no need to even ask. It was obvious he hadn't found a single clue. Suzuha had been doing this for over half a year, so her face didn't betray her emotions anymore. Daru didn't even bother asking me how it went. He could probably tell from the look on my face.
考えてみたらさ、これまでだって鈴葉がそれなりに探してたわけでさ、それを僕ら素人が今さらまた蒸し返したところで新しい発見なんてあるわけないんだよな。
Daru said what I'd been thinking but trying not to say.
手伝ってくれてありがとう。これ以上無理はしなくていい。捜索は私だけで続行するよ。
Suzuha evidently had no intention of giving up.
いや、ちょっと待って鈴葉。僕が言いたいのはさ、
父さんたちに無理させるわけにもいかないから。Kagariの件は私の責任なんだし。
バカ言うなよ。子供の責任は親の責任だろ、上皇。
父さん。
ね、今のどう？かなりパパっぽかったと思うんだけど、なんならパパ大好きって言って抱きついてくれてもいいのだぜ。
Watching these two always gave me a strange feeling. For a while after they first met, they were complete strangers. And now they were father and child. And age-wise, they were exactly the same. Maybe I could understand how Suzuha was feeling, but I had no idea what Daru was going through.
とにかく僕が言いたいのは、ただむやみやたらに探したところでダメだろってこと。
じゃあどうしろと言うんだ？
餅は餅屋って言うでしょ。こういうのはやっぱ専門家に頼むのが一番だと思うんだよね。
専門家？
こういうのはある程度裏の世界の情報にも精通してる人に頼むのが一番だろ、上皇。
Yeah, he was thinking the same thing that Okabe was. I realized he'd come up with the same idea I had. My head hurt.
心当たりがあるの？
Go to the dark web.
ち、父さんを甘く見ないでほしいな。僕はオタだけど顔は広いのだぜ。
横幅も広いけどな。
Damn.
茶化すなっつーの。
っていうか、本気で言ってるのか？本気で裏の世界の人間とやらにつながりがあると？
ちょっと連絡取ってみる。
Before Suzuha or I could respond, he took out his phone and started typing a message to someone. Was he serious? And was text messaging the preferred way to get in touch with the criminal underworld?
どう思う？おじさん。
実際にそういう人物が本当にいるのなら頼んでみてもいいとは思うが。
In fairness, being a hacker was a pretty underworld sort of occupation too. If I knew someone like him, it was quite possible the person he said he knew really existed.
よし、送信と。あとは返信が来れば。お？
もう返事が来たの？
うん。今からそっちに向かいますって。
Oh, is
随
that
分と話が早い相手だ
Moeka
な。
maybe? That would be interesting if she got kind of brought back into the fold.
遅いよりはいいん
Right?
じゃね？
She's pretty fast. Sounds like someone with a shining finger, doesn't it? That was true. Right? And if she's like a reporter, she might know stuff about the underworld. Daru was sending another message. He was probably telling her where we were. Now all we had to do was wait for her arrival. And then the phone rang. Not Daru's phone, my phone. Was it Kirisu again? Alright, I'll pick up. Oh, it's Lukako.
もしもし、ルカ子か？
岡部さん。すみません。今大丈夫ですか？
おう、どうした？
実は僕岡部さんに相談したいことがあって。
相談？
今からお会いしてもらえないでしょうか。
今から電話じゃ言いにくいことなのか？
はい、少し。
Right now? Would it be okay to leave this to Daru and Susaha?
悪い。これから客
Okay,
が
I
来
was
る
like,
こと
oh
にな
no,
ってい
did I
るんだ。
make a mistake of like, am I gonna leave and I'm not gonna see? I was interested to see what kind of person Daru's friend was. And if it is Moeka, then does Daru, like, would he remember her from the... And Susaha, like... Susaha would probably remember her, but would Daru, like, recognize her?
そうですか。
その後からじゃダメか？
その後は僕も用事があって。
そうか。
それじゃあ。
Just as Lukako was about to say something. Holy cow, that was fast. The person's already here. I heard sharp footsteps coming up the stairs. That's definitely Moeka. And then a knock.
はい、どうぞ。
悪いルカ子、お客が来たようだ。後で連絡を。
And then I stopped. The person who opened the door, it was...
こいつ。
Yes. It's funny that I brought up Moeka. I've been meaning to bring up Moeka because, like, it's been... Every once in a while, like, it would nag on me about, like, I just remember she was at the beginning of the game. And then she was never mentioned again. I was like, she's gonna pop up at some point. And then she does. In the very same episode I talk about her. Does Moeka remember me? It was Moeka Kiryu. I hadn't seen her since the ATF seminar.
岡部さん、どうしたんですか？岡部さん。お茶どうぞ。
Okay, Susaha. She's kind of... Her tone is a little clipped. It was like, does she remember her? Moeka was silent with her head tilted slightly forward. Seeing her caused a dull ache within me, like my heart was being squeezed dry.
どうして？
Why was she here with Daru? I had any number of doubts in my mind.
どうしたん、オカリン。
いや。
Okay, well, Daru doesn't seem to remember her. I guess everything he would know about he heard secondhand from like Susaha about the past world lines, but Susaha is not really reacting to it. Moeka tilted her head a bit to the side, and I quickly averted my eyes. There was no connection between CERN and us anymore, so she wasn't going to kill Mayuri. She wasn't going to kill Mayuri. She wasn't going to kill Mayuri. She wasn't going to kill her. I said it to myself over and over again and finally started to relax.
おじさん、顔色悪いよ。大丈夫？
I wonder why Susaha doesn't remember her. I guess she only remembers the timeline that she was on, but like, nothing about Moeka at all.
気にしないでくれ。それよりもダル、説明してくれ。
ああ、この人はキリウ氏。ヘンプロのライターさんだよ。
Edit Pro, editing production. Editing producers do special projects and editing work for a variety of publishing companies.
桐生萌香です。
She silently handed me her business card, which had the name of a company called Arc Rewrite on it. Arc Rewrite, an editing production company located at Akihabara. It primarily does articles for computer magazines. Daru gave a brief explanation to me and Susaha.
なあ、ダル。お前はどうしてこの人と知り合いに？
前にさ、キリウ氏の担当してる雑誌で秋葉関係の都市伝説を扱った特集があったんだよね。その時に僕のバイトのこと取材したいって申し出があってさ。
Alright, well, I mean, I guess Moeka, like, if she's, the CERN thing's not an issue, then she's probably going to be okay. And if anything, she might actually help us out. But I guess that kind of answers the question about how she is going to factor into the story.
僕のバイトってほら、あんま大きな声で言えないやつっしょ。だから取材に関しては
Maybe she does have some
丁
sort
重に
of
お
like
断りし
knowledge
たんだけ
about
ど。
all of this is going on, like the whole thing with like the twin ghosts, like maybe because if she has any knowledge about, you know, she's like working for CERN, she's around her. If she has any knowledge about like the time travels, she might know something might be up.
ただ、僕って普段から足がつかないようにかなり注意してるんだよね。なのに桐生氏はその僕にたどり着いた。それが気になって。で、会ってみたらこの通り、すげえ美人さんだったわけだ。
Yeah. And the thing is too, it's like there is the urban legend about the ghost with the twin tails who is looking for a young girl who never seems to age. Like Moeka, like if she sees Suzuha and then sees that they're looking for a young girl from 1998, she might make those connections, like maybe Suzuha's a time traveler.
都市伝説を追う美人ライターとか燃えざるを得ないだろう、上皇。
And that's how they'd met. Suzuha was frowning as she saw how Daru acted around Moeka. She didn't say anything, but I could tell she was thinking that he'd be better off directing his attention toward her mom. Moeka, for her part, seemed completely uninterested in Daru. She was wearing her usual poker face and fiddling with her phone. She's still using a Japanese feature phone instead of a smartphone, huh?
まあ、専門ってわけじゃないけど、秋葉についてはかなり詳しいみたいだし、結構裏の方の事情も知ってるっぽいから、頼んでみるのもありかなって。
I think I mentioned this in my first playthrough of Steins Gate, when like the fact that she's got a flip phone. I mean, I held onto my flip phone. This is 2011. I had a flip phone until 2016, and I literally only switched to a smartphone when I did because Pokemon Go was coming out. I know, like for the nerdiest reason ever. Now I can't go back. It's also pretty impressive, like, yeah, she's got to have a shining finger to be able to do editing on those where you had to press the button 3 times to like cycle through the like the letters and stuff.
人探し、そう聞いた。
うん、実はね、12年前に秋葉でいなくなった女の子を探してほしいんだお。
Daru told Moeka Kiryu the basic story. She was dead silent the whole time, but she typed his words into her phone with incredible speed. I said nothing and just watched. She was once around her. She probably still was. Was it okay to trust her? It was just a coincidence that I'd run into her here. I knew that to my head, but my heart just refused to accept it. Here in the Beta Worldline, we'd never encountered Moeka Kiryu before. Of course we hadn't. I'd chosen the Beta Worldline so we wouldn't. Even though the cost was Kirisu Makise's life.
つまり、その椎名Kagariという人を探せばいいの。
そういうこと、どうかな。
やってみてもいい。
マジ？
でも、見つかるかはわからない。
もちろん、その場合はしょうがないよ。
Normally, Moeka and I would never have run into each other like this. Of course, we might have crossed paths in Akihabara because they always seem to, don't they? We almost ran into each other when she'd come to interview Dr. Leskinen in Maho at the ATF seminar. But I'd convinced myself we were never going to meet each other directly. Was this fate? Were she and I fated to cross paths at some point? If that was the case, maybe it was better not to try to avoid her, but to watch her to see what she did. As I listened to Daru talk to her, that was when I started to think.
じゃあ、報酬は成功報酬で。その他の必要経費はこっちで持つってことで OK？
問題ない。
オカリンも鈴葉もそれでいい？
私は手伝ってもらえるなら文句はない。
俺も構わない。
じゃあ契約成立ってことで一つ。
Moeka nodded slightly and then asked us for information about Kagari that might be a clue. Stuff like the clothes she was wearing when she disappeared and what she looked like. After that, she left. All the tension suddenly drained from my body as I sank into the sofa.
おじさん、本当に大丈夫？
大丈夫だ。少し緊張しただけだから。
It was a little late, but I took some anxiety meds out of my pocket and swallowed them.
おじさん、さっきの桐生萌香って人のこと知ってたんだね。
え？
She could tell? Yeah, I guess, right, in the beta world line, like the line that we're on, Suzuha would not have encountered Moeka because there was no need to if the time machine didn't exist.
どうしてそう思ったんだ？
見ていればわかるよ。
I guess you have to be a pretty sharp to survive on the battlefield.
いや、知らない人だ。
アルファ世界線では知ってた？わかった。これ以上は聞かないけど、私なりに警戒はしておくよ。
それでいい。今はな。
一体何のこと？
緊張したっていうことさ。
わかるわ。桐生氏は美人で巨乳でスタイル抜群でメガネ属性まで持ってるもんな。しょうがない。
そうだな。
If she was a part of my life now, I would just have to use her as best as I could. Maybe it was because she was gone now, or maybe it was because of the anxiety meds, but I'd calmed down enough to start thinking that way. Of course, who knew if I'd feel the same way the next time I saw her face to face. All right, so that was good. Okay, what I liked about this, and it was similar to Steins Gate and a lot of the other visual novels that I play, is it really changes up a lot route by route, and this is why this is one of those games if you want to get the full story, you have to do all of the routes because they're so drastically different. With the exception of the first few minutes, this went in a completely different direction, and it seems like with this one, we are focusing on Kagari and trying to find her. We also have the return of Moeka, who was just hinted at in the first route. She was just there for a little bit right at the beginning. But she's back, and it seems like she's going to be a more substantial character as she's going to be helping us find Kagari, and Okabe understandably is hesitant about that because he remembers what she did in the previous timelines. And, you know, is she around or is she still working with CERN? She would have no reason logically to, you know, be doing anything to this group, considering they haven't made the time machine. But the time machine does exist because Suzuha did have to get here on the time machine. It is on the roof. Is she still searching for it? Who knows? But that certainly makes things interesting. I also like things about how Maho straight up has admitted to having Kirisu's laptop and that she's trying to get into it. This was information we didn't learn until much later on before. It almost seems like she trusts us a lot more right from the beginning, despite the fact she has seemingly met us not that long ago. So a lot of stuff has already been changing, and I am excited that we are now focusing on like Kagari and trying to find her and what's going to go on with that, especially knowing that Kagari is trying to kill Suzuha. So it will make certainly for an interesting story, and I'm excited to see more of this. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the first part of this new route, and hopefully you will want to see the rest of it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned next week for part 11. Until then, bye. Special shoutouts to my top tier patrons: Emily Hornsby, Salieri, Zoran Ether, Amp Deary, Revealing Storm, Icognito, Asborn Kennedy, Harry Gazif, and Jared Fan.